everybody. It's Dan Cavallari, a slow guy in the fast ride. I am here in the garage, and if you've watched any of my in the garage videos, you've probably noticed my background changes constantly. It's because I'm always moving things around in my garage because I have so many projects going on in here. It's not just bikes. It's photography. I got bourbon. I'm a bourbon snob, so I've got bourbon everywhere. I've got motorcycles, and so something caught my eye recently. I follow a lot of folks in the bike industry, and recently I saw somebody I follow on Instagram and social media riding a really cool motorcycle with a really neat setup that I just loved. And she was carrying her bicycle on the back of her motorcycle, and I said, I need that in my life. And so I ended up buying a new motorcycle, first of all, which is irresponsible, and I love it. But I have to get this thing that she had on her bike to tow her bicycle to the trails or to the race, whatever you want to do. So today on the line, I've got Lex Albrecht. Lex, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks, Dan. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. You have blown my mind. your motorcycle setup. Now, for those of you who don't know Lex, can you give the folks a little bit of perspective on who you are and a little bit of your race background in the bicycle world before we dive into your really sweet motorcycle setup?
Well, I started racing road cycling professionally in 2012, and a couple years later, in 2014, I think it was, I started riding motorcycles as well. And the thing that I loved the most about riding a motorcycle at first was after like a really big day of training and stuff, usually as a pro, you gotta like put your feet up. It's like part of the job pretty much. But yeah. I still wanted to ride my bike. Like, I'm a cycling junkie. And I felt like being on the motorcycle, that gave me the opportunity to keep riding at the end of the day without spending too much energy. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's such a great crossover. And I think there's actually a lot more crossover between motorcycles and bicycles than a lot of people realize. And part of your setup, what you have on your motorcycle and your helmet and on the back of the bike, there's a lot of crossover. But were you using the motorcycle to actually go to some of your races as well, or was it just sort of training stuff?
Before I got the 2x2 cycles rack, I wasn't using it to go to races, but I would go to some races and think, oh, these roads would be so awesome for motorcycling, or I'd be like riding my bicycle and think, oh, I'd love to come back here on my motorcycle, and actually vice versa too. Sometimes when I'd be scooting around on my motorcycle, I'd be like, oh, I gotta come back here with my bicycle. But I couldn't actually do it until I got the 2x2 cycles rack.
Yeah. So let's talk about the rack, because I think that's what basically got my attention at first. I mean, obviously I'd followed you before, and I guess we could say we were like briefly like co-workers, or like we were contributing content to some of the same places anyway. But I'd sort of been tracking your career for a while, and you had started doing Instagram posts of your motorcycle with this 2x2 rack. Talk a little bit. It's 2x2 for those of you who are looking for it, Googling it. Tell me a little bit about that. How'd you stumble upon it, and what is it?
Well, I went to like a motorcycle show. Well, I used to go like every single year. I haven't been in a while. I guess that's partly because of COVID stuff. But I saw different options for carting around bicycles, and none were super ideal. Like there was this one trailer that I thought would be a little bit sketchy. So I just did some searches on the internet to see if there were any other things that I'd never seen. And that's how I came across 2x2 cycles. And I was like, this is what I need. And I thought this is going to change my life. And it did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so cool. So for those of you who haven't seen it yet, there's a couple different kinds of the 2x2 cycles. I'm just looking up at my other monitor here. And in basically your bike, on one of them, it looks like the bike is like, your bicycle is like flying off the back of your motorcycle.
I have.
That's okay. So you have that one. That's the sort of the horizontal one. Yep. Yeah. And then there's another one that's, I think, newer, that has the bike sort of mounted vertically, so it doesn't fly off the back quite as much. It's a really neat setup. It's notable. I mean, if you were riding down the highway, you would whether you're into motorcycles or not, you would take a second look. Does it change the way the motorcycle handles it all? Is it harder to handle? Does it get caught in the wind or anything like that?
Not much. It doesn't really change much because your bicycle actually is in your draft. So you don't really get caught in the wind. But if it's like super, super gusty and they're like very strong side winds, I mean, even in those conditions, I don't love riding my motorcycle without anything on it. But I don't know, like the gust might be a little bit amplified, but you barely feel it at all, which I find really, really impressive.
And I should mention, I mean, like this this episode is not sponsored by 2x2 cycles. I actually really I saw this and I really loved it. And part of the reason I love it is because the mobility aspect of it to me, as cyclists, we often talk about changing mobility, getting out of the car. And sometimes that's just not possible to ride your bike everywhere, right? I mean, sometimes you have longer distances or whatever the case may be. And I think this is a really neat solution because I've tried to keep my truck parked more in the driveway rather than driving it especially for short trips. And that's what my motorcycle has come in handy for. But one thing I haven't been able to do is like mount up my mountain bike and go to the trails. So this is sort of a neat solution, I think. So it's just to me an interesting mobility story. And Lex, I mean, what has it been like for you? I mean, has it allowed, first of all, do you own a car?
I got rid of my car earlier this year because I was never using it and I needed some repairs done on it. And I just thought, why did I put more money into it and just like leave it sitting in a parking space? But I never use a car in the summertime because I feel like I'm a prisoner in a car. I live right downtown Montreal, and Montreal is an okay city, but the cycling here isn't like absolutely amazing. Like the urban stuff gets a little bit old after a while, like it does in any city. And getting out of the city by car, like I felt like I was a prisoner in the car, But now with the motorcycle, I just feel like I'm having fun in the motorcycle. Even if there's traffic, I don't mind. I feel like I'm outside, I'm free, and then I have fun on my bicycle. So it's like a total game changer.
Yeah. And I feel the same way about the motorcycle. Even when I'm sitting in traffic, it's an active process. I mean, you have to be present, there's nothing to distract you. You have to have those hands on the bars, so it is more of a fun thing to be on the motorcycle. And the reason I asked about the car was because, with the motorcycle and the bike for much of the year, you probably don't even need a car. Like you said, Montreal winters, I imagine, is a little tough.
Well, usually I sleep for the winter anyway. So yeah, that's part of the reason why I wait in the parking spot.
Yeah. I mean, is there like car share stuff in Montreal that you could do?
Actually, yeah, and I signed up for that. So every once in a while, like this past weekend, I used it to go up to Mont Tremblant to go hiking because I'm on a little bit of a bike hiatus right now because I broke my collarbone, actually.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
The day that I broke the collarbone, I'd actually ridden my motorcycle with the 2x2 cycles rack on the back to get the start of the ride. So I was laying on the ground and I was like, oh shoot, how am I going to get back home? But a friend from Montreal who rides motorcycles came and picked me up the next day and drove my moto back.
Oh, nice.
That was fun.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting note. I mean, I think there's some critics that tend to think of cyclists as anti-car. And I don't necessarily think that's the story, right? Like, I think there's more of a perspective among cyclists that there's the right tool for the job, and I think that's what the motorcycle for me has opened up. Like short trip, half mile to the store, I'll take a bike. If I got to go 6 miles to the grocery store or something and I want to load it up, take the motorcycle. Longer trip, take the car. And I think you don't really see that if all you own is a car and all you ever drive is a car, right? And I don't know if you share that sentiment with having the motorcycle of what that's opened up in terms of possibilities. But that, to me, it just makes sense to be able to have the right tool for the job. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely too. And plus with a motorcycle, you mix in like the fun aspect with the utility aspect too. Yeah. So it's like getting the best of both worlds. I love it so much. Yeah. I used to think that motorcycles were something that I would only get into when I was too old to push watts on the bike or something. But honestly, it's amazing right now. It's just like you say, it's another tool in the toolbox.
Yeah. And I wonder too, with your 2x2, I mean, the 2x2, I'm looking at the site now, they actually have other things too. Like, they have a ski rack. I'm probably not at a point.
Ski rack.
Yeah.
For me,
I'm not sure I would probably not ride that in the winter in the snow. I don't know. I'm not that gutsy on my motorcycle yet.
But Dan, it's funny that you mentioned that. I didn't even know that they made those racks, but I have thought on several occasions during the summer, what am I going to do in the winter? Maybe I could get a snowmobile and put my cross-country skis on the back or something.
That'd be awesome. They even have they have a grill. You could attach a grill to the back of your motorcycle. This is a cool little website. And I'm sure they're not the only ones doing it. But I love this idea of mobility. They have a golf club carrier, if you're into that sort of thing. And to me, that's I guess the story that I was curious about for you is having spent your life racing bikes, or much of your life racing bikes, and treating the bicycle as sort of not only just a mode of transportation, but also your day job. What was it about the motorcycle that appealed to you? I mean, why not? I mean, aside from just resting your legs after races, was there an allure to the motorcycle that, there was something about the motorcycle you weren't getting from the bike?
I think I love cycling for so many reasons, and sometimes if I get burnt out on one reason or get a little tired of one reason, like maybe it's like performing or training or like even riding with groups or riding alone, there's always like another reason to go ride it too. So honestly, I just feel like the motorcycle added one more option, and I just get the same type of pleasure and like thrill that I get on the bicycle on the motorcycle. And I don't do crazy stuff on the motorcycle, but I just love the feeling of being on two wheels. Like I'm a person that is almost like hard to satisfy sometimes. Like I feel like I always like to be accomplishing or doing something. Yeah. And for some reason that I don't quite understand, being on a bicycle, whether I'm like actually accomplishing something or not, feels satisfying to me. And when I'm on the motorcycle, it feels like the exact same thing. Yeah.
Now you have, first of all, I don't know that have we mentioned what motorcycle you are riding right now?
No, I ride a Yamaha FZ07. Now they call the same model an MT07. So it's 700cc, and mine is from 2016. And actually, I don't know how many miles that I've racked up on it because I like switched the odometer so I won't see because I think I put on a lot and I'm just like in denial. I'm like, maybe I need to switch it out soon.
I do that on my truck. Yeah. Now we talked a little bit about crossover between, sort of the feeling of riding a bike versus riding a motorcycle, and how those two things can be as fun, and there's elements of it that are just sort of the same thrill, but also some of the gear is sort of similar. And you had mentioned your helmet is equipped with something that is also available as for cyclists now. Let's bust out your helmet. What do you got?
Yeah, so this is one of my helmets, and it's got a Senna communication system on it. This is the 50S, and so it just clips on the side of my helmet here, and there's like a boom mic inside. I'll put it out here. Inside there are speakers that are mounted. So like Senna is one of the leaders in the motorcycling communication space. So you can talk with other riders, you can listen to GPS or your music or whatever. Actually, I'm gonna like digress very briefly, but at the beginning of the pandemic, I started delivering Uber Eats just for fun on my motorcycle.
Oh, cool.
And I would listen to GPS directions through my helmet, be like, okay, turn here. And then I'd like show up at the restaurant, pick up the thing. Then it'd be like, turn here, go here, to deliver it. And I felt like I was in a video game, and I'd get home at the end of the night, like after riding for a couple hours, and I was like, oh, somebody just paid me $100 to go play on my motorcycle. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a good excuse to go ride. That's awesome. And for what it's worth, Senna also has the same sort of setup for cyclists. And do you have your helmet in front of you for that too? Yeah.
Yeah, so this is my cycling helmet, and Senna integrated the exact same technology that they made for motorcycle helmets into the bike helmet. So integrated into like the frame or the shell of the helmet, there's a microphone here, which sits right up above like where your nose is. Okay. And then speakers, there's two speakers that are integrated right above where your ears are. And this model also has like a flashing light that you can turn on in the back. And you can connect with other riders, which is super, super cool. Yeah. For me, on the road, during group riding, you don't have to yell over wind noise. Right. You can just hear the other riders speak in your ears, and it's not push to talk. And then if you're going mountain biking, it's like even more next level, because you can actually talk while you're like on the single track trails. And even if you split up a bit, you can keep speaking together, which I love, because when I go mountain biking with people and they like want to stop every 3 minutes to chit chat and stuff, guys, can we keep riding our bikes? Like, yeah, but I want to ride. Yeah. But
the only thing I don't like about that is it takes away my strategy, which is when I can't hear somebody when they're trying to like tell a story on a group ride or something, you need to just kind of like nod and laugh, like, oh yeah, that's great. Now I actually have to listen.
Well, on the side here, there are these 3 buttons, right? Yeah. You just press the rear button as many times as you want to turn the volume all the way down.
Oh, sneaky. Well, that's neat. I mean, that's a neat crossover too. And I actually do like the idea of the motorcycle communication system, and that's pretty well known in the motorcycle world. I mean, that's not a new thing in terms of, the riders have always sort of been connected, but I don't know how new Senna is, but they're kind of like one of the big ones in the space. But for cyclists, it's not as big of a thing, and part of it is because I don't want to stick things to my helmet, I don't want more weight, blah blah blah. But that seems actually pretty small and easy to use, easy to mount. I mean, it doesn't look like it takes up a whole lot of space on your helmet there.
Yeah, well, it comes integrated into the helmet, so Senna actually makes this helmet with all that stuff in it.
Cool.
And it's cool, too, when you're riding alone, because you can also listen to music, or if I'm doing, like, super long endurance rides, I'll listen to, like, podcasts and stuff, and the sound quality is great. Plus, actually, you can take calls through it, too.
Yeah.
So if you want to play hooky from the office, like, people don't know that you're riding unless you're, like, totally out of breath. Like, that'll give it away, but I think it's pretty cool.
Oh, so that means I got to ask. So, and I asked this to Lael Wilcox when I interviewed her. She told me that she does audiobooks on some of her really long endurance rides, like her multi-day, multi-week endurance rides. And she told me that one time she had listened to Stephen King's It, start to finish, and a lot of it was like at night, at midnight, 2 a.m, as she was riding in the dark. And she said it was just such a cool experience. So what do you listen to? What audiobooks have you been listening to?
I actually have to turn to podcasts more than audiobooks, because I get lost in audiobooks, and then if I want to go back to where like I zoned out, I find it very hard to find a spot. So I haven't found a trick to be a good audiobook listener yet. But podcasts, I'm not like a subscriber to specific ones. I just check out various ones depending on my mood, depending on the subject I feel like listening to. But if you have suggestions, I'm open.
Oh, well, I host the Allure Tech podcast, so I would say maybe that would be a good one. I don't know. And also I also host I don't know if you're interested in whiskey, but I host the Practical Still with my buddy Mark. We do a whiskey podcast all about learning about the good bottles of whiskey that you don't have to spend a lot of money on. How cool is that?
Oh, that's interesting. I'm not a whiskey drinker, but that could add to my like little bank of knowledge that I can use when I'm with people, I guess.
Good at parties.
Exactly.
Are there any other cool bits of gear on your motorcycle that I so like I said, I've got this new Triumph motorcycle that I bought, and I am a gear nerd at heart. I want to outfit it with awesome stuff. Is there anything else that you love that you can't do without when you go for a ride?
Yeah, there are these new like phone cases with mounts that I just got, and I have to take them out of the box. So I'm not riding the motorcycle right now because of my broken collarbone, which is getting better. Right. But I'm going to mount these soon. So the brand is called SP Connect, and I actually found these at Sea Otter Classic. And
cool.
It's a really cool mount system that works like with really strong magnets. And so that's the phone case, and then they have like a whole plethora of mounts that you can use. So this one, like in your handlebars, this one can actually like replace the stem cap on your bicycle, and then this is another one with a little like arm that reaches out. And they have ones for motorcycles and bikes, so you can put your phone on, like, swap it from the bike to the motorcycle, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's like a magnet-based system. So do you put your phone in a special case, and then it just kind of clicks into the magnet on the mount?
Yeah, exactly. So this is the case that you put your phone into, and then there's like a little click lock in the back, so it works kind of with a magnet. I think there's a magnet, or maybe just the locking system. But they have you can put a whole bunch of different things, your cycling computer or your phone and stuff. So it's neat.
I think, and I think Peak Design makes a similar system, but SP Connect, I'll have to look that one up. Yeah. Like I said, I'm always looking for toys for my motorcycle. Any other cool?
Yeah, gloves. I found like neoprene gloves are actually really handy on the motorcycle. And the reason I came across those is I was riding up north one day, like at the end of the fall, so it was like super cold, and my regular motorcycle gloves were not making the cut, and I'd been on the bike for like 25 minutes, and I just stopped in the sports store, and I got like neoprene, like almost like dive gloves, but like 3 millimeters thick, and I was like, whoa, these are amazing. And I started using them on the bike too, and they're great for like when it's rainy or when it's cold. So that's another thing I like. Nice. Crosses over well.
Does your bike have heated grips? I have heated grips on mine. I haven't turned them on yet.
Lucky. I need to level up on that.
I know. Yes, I have something cool. But that came with the bike, so I didn't go out of my way. Do you have pannier bags or anything like that you like?
No, I don't have any racks for that on my bike, but that's been something I've been dreaming of for years. But now with the 2x2 cycles rack, there's actually like a platform where I can, sometimes I'll strap, like I'll bungee a bag onto that platform underneath the frame of my bike. Actually, if you want to talk about more cool gear, this is what I use for it. It's called the Perfect Bungee. So the whole thing is just made out of like rubber and plastic. So there's nothing like hard or scratchy on it. And then this one has a whole bunch of different holes, so you can just make it whatever length you want. So, and it's super stretchy and strong. So that's what I use to tether my bags onto the 2x2 cycle platform.
Nice. I have seen those before. Those are cool. I didn't know what they were called, but now I'm going to get one. And I got some Wolf Designs pannier bags. They're soft bags, and they're made here in Colorado. They're super bomb proof, and I could go to the grocery store and do like a full load of groceries with it. It's pretty cool.
Oh, cool.
And they don't break the bag. I mean, so those hard shell pannier cases are so expensive, so expensive. And so I got the soft sided ones, and it cost me, I think, $500 for the pair, something like that.
That's reasonable.
It is, and I love them. I mean, they're adaptable, and they're soft, so you can really cram stuff in there. You're not bound by a hard shell. Like you could really overload them, which I do. So that's been my one awesome gear purchase so far. But now I have a shopping list that I've been making as you've been talking. So I've got some things to buy here. Cool. Well, Lex, I mostly wanted to talk to you today because, like I said, you blew my mind, and I'm a big fan of mobility stories that are making reasonable attempts to use cars less. Not necessarily stop using them, but just sort of, find other ways to get around. And here in the U.S. anyway, that's not always easy with the way our roads are designed. So it was really neat to see what you're doing and see that crossover between somebody who has made your life out of, racing bikes, but also, sort of taking that a step further to actually find ways to be mobile without the car. And I thought that was really a neat way to live. So thanks for blowing my mind on Instagram and chatting with me today about your gear. It's been awesome.
Gosh, thank you, Dan. It's been a lot of fun.
And for those of you listening, if you want to follow Lex, and you never know, she might blow your mind with something completely. I mean, Lex seems to have a really good handle on some awesome gear.
I love having fun. What can I say?
Exactly. Oh, hey, that's the base. If that's the baseline of your life, you're doing awesome. Lex, where can they find you on Instagram and social media?
My hashtag, or my handle, is Lex_Albrecht, ALBRECHT, and LexAlbrecht.com. And I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all over the place.
All the wonderful ones. And you can find me at Brown Tie Dan on Instagram and Twitter. I don't do Facebook anymore because it was a scary place for me. But if you have questions for me or for Lex, please do reach out to one or both of us. I would certainly love to hear from you. And to 2x2 Cycles, hey, cheers for making an awesome product. I'm probably going to spend a lot of money with you very soon. Lex, thanks again for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Bye.